President Fattah al-Sisi on Saturday inaugurated a number of mega urban and industrial development projects in Upper Egypt via video conference during a visit to Qina Governorate. Details in this report.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Saturday directed the government to monitor the volume of unlicensed factories to pave the way for addressing their conditions and legalizing them. The president's remarks came during the inauguration of a number of mega-urban and industrial development projects in Upper Egypt via video conference during a visit to Qina Governorate. The new openings marks the Upper Egypt Week and are part of the state's comprehensive development plan of the important area. President al-Sisi said the state can increase funding from £16 billion to 30 to 50 billion pounds as long as these projects have provided up to a million job opportunities during the past 7 years. The head of state stressed that modern technology can achieve great turns with an increase of 20% compared to manual work. During the inauguration, the president witnessed via video conference the opening of the 4 industrial complexes, one at Bayad al-Arab city in Beni Suef Governorate, a second at Al-Mathara in Minya Governorate, and a third in Qina Governorate, and a fourth in Hurghada in the Red Sea Governorate. The new projects also included new roads and bridges and new trade facilities such as the Qus Access in Qina Governorate and Adli Mansour Access in Beni Suef Governorate. Following the ceremony, President al-Sisi paid an inspection tour to a number of new development projects in Qina Governorate. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, as well as Ministers of Local Development, Industry and Trade, Transportation, Interior Affairs, Petroleum, Finance, Supply and Internal Trade and International Cooperation attended the inauguration.
Addressing the inauguration ceremony, Minister of Local Development Mahmoud Sha'rawi presented the new infrastructure project in Minya, Sohag and Qina, including new roads and bridges. Sha'rawi said a total of £54 billion were invested in his ministry's projects in Upper Egypt during the last 7 years, in line with the Egyptian new republic. In addition, Minister of Trade and Industry Niveen Gama said improved road infrastructure help in launching new industrial projects and attracting investments. Gama said available investment opportunities in Upper Egypt amount to 234, emphasizing that 10 out of 13 new industrial complexes established nationwide are located in Upper Egypt. For his part, the Minister of Transport, Kamil Al-Wazir, said a total of £1.7 trillion have been allocated for overall transportation sector projects during 10 years, starting from June 2014 till June 2024. He said his ministry's vision is not restricted to transporting passengers and goods, but is of vast importance to the state's overall development drive. The minister asserted that 22 new access and bridges have been planned to link the eastern and western banks of the Nile since 2014. 14 of them in Upper Egypt. He asserted that 13 access of these have been completed so far, including 5 that were inaugurated on Saturday. The remaining 9 axes are under development. By 2024, the total number of bridges and access will be 60,038 of them in Upper Egypt. The Transport Minister said that new lines for express trains are also under expansion. And to shed more light on the importance of these projects that were inaugurated early in the day by President Fattah al-Sisi in Qina Governorate, we are joined over the phone by Dr. Passant Fahmi. She is an economic expert and former member of parliament. Good afternoon, Dr. Passant.
Good afternoon, madam.
So as we have seen that President Fattah el-Sisi on Saturday inaugurated a number of mega urban and industrial development projects in Upper Egypt by video conference during a visit to Quna Governorate. Can you tell us more about the significance of these projects?
Well, nobody can deny that Upper Egypt, with all its wealth and all its resources, have been neglected for decades. And it is unacceptable, not only Egyptian people to live at that standard, but also our resources, our wealth, to be wrongly, if you like, or misused. What we are seeing now is a rebuilding in all aspects, and I mean the whole world, in all aspects of all Egypt. Upper Egypt is one of the richest governorates, and President Sisi had given a very big attention to that area. First of all, it's a social national security. It's our border. Second, it's a very rich area. On all governorates, you have seen Luxor, Aswan, Mania, Swag, you name it. Each one has a very well diversified economy.
Yes.
Third, we have 50% of our population young. So we need, and as Mr. President has started, honestly speaking, that we need to have a proper plan in place to develop not only houses and roads, although very important, but to develop economy. If you have a strong economy, you have a strong country. And Mr. President has started from south to north, east to west. And the attention given to those governorates, I repeat, has been neglected for decades, and it is unacceptable. Now we can see not only a decent life, but on the contrary, all those people will live in, if you like, a very strong economic growth performance. It will create jobs, improve the standard of living, education, healthcare, roads. I mean, it's not only cinemas, operas, clubs, everything. A decent life. And decent life, in that, starting by that area going up, will create, honestly, a very total and a total different image of the economic situation in Egypt. So I have to really congratulate and salute Mr. President for the effort and for his vision, because this needs a vision, and he has it. It needs proper follow-up. He's doing it by himself, not delegating it to anyone else. And thirdly, he knows very well where Egypt can lead in the future economically. And when you have strong economy, you have strong country.
Yes, Dr. Passant, what is the economic significance of developing the rural areas, and why are rural areas important to the country's economic development?
All the resources in those areas, unfortunately, were exported raw materials. And then later on, we import them again, products. So why should we do that? We can establish, as we saw, starting from micro projects, middle, big, and large, utilizing our resources. I wish to mention here as well that all the resources are from Egyptian land, Egyptian factories. All the employees are Egyptians. All engineers are Egyptians. So what we are doing is that turning billions of billions from a hand to a hand in the Egyptian economy, which will develop a very strong economic base for the future, because it not only improves the standard of living, but it will create jobs, it will create opportunities for training and learning, it will create an atmosphere which could invite major multinational companies to come and develop with us huge projects, as we saw this morning, not only with the government, but with the private sector. And I wish to mention as well that Mr. President has been very clear about the role of the private sector in all that.
Yes.
Because the private sector is not moving, the foreign private sector will not come. So it was a clear message to everybody. All the country is working, private sector, public sector, army, social community, etc. So inshallah, the results will be seen very soon, as witnessed by all the international institutions who are evaluating our performance.
Yes, Dr. Passant, many of Upper Egypt residents migrate to larger cities in the north to find jobs. What are the importance of implementing these projects and inaugurating these industrial complexes in Upper Egypt to help provide more job opportunities to the residents and establish integrated communities?
It's very difficult for a person to leave his way of living, his family, his grandfathers, his community, and go to another place, even if it's in the same country. We need to understand that Upper Egypt has its own, as we say, traditions. They have families. They have areas they can live in decently. So if you force them to immigrate, it's very tough on them. And it's very tough on them even further if you ask them to immigrate outside Egypt. So I think when we establish all the possibilities of creating jobs for them in the way, in the place they are born, because every one of us has traditions, they have big families, they like to live wherever they have been born. So if you push them out, it is very severe. So I think it will stabilize the social community in Egypt. It will create, if you like, even on the cultural side, we will see different culture from a governorate to the other, which will encourage tourism. So I think living where you are born is very different than even if it's in the same country. You leave your family, you leave your friends, you leave your belongings, and you go somewhere else. That's not really acceptable. So I think creating jobs for them, it's not only creating money for them, but it is creating standard of living within their families, their traditions, the way they have been born, etc. So I think it's a mega project, it's a huge one, and honestly speaking, we have never seen this since 60 to 7 years ago.
Yes, also President Fattah Sisi has earlier pointed to the problem of population and to what extent it is threatening economic growth in the country. So in your opinion, how can we face this problem, especially that we can find it in rural areas?
We need to let them understand. We need to talk to them in the schools, in the communities, in the press, in the media. Those are very honest and decent people, but they have long traditions which have been there for decades. We need to educate them. The school has a role, the mosque has a role, the church has a role, you have a role, we have a role. All of us, we need to tell those people it is not actually, if you like, beneficial to them to have so many children because they will not be brought up decently. So I think, yes, we need to help them, but on the other side, we need to educate them and train them about the negative side of having so many children, and we cannot really bring them up in the way we need to see them. Yeah.
Also, Minister of Trade and Industry, Naveen Gama, said that improved road infrastructure help in launching new industrial projects and attracting investments. She said that available investment opportunities in Upper Egypt amount to 234, emphasizing that 10 out of 13 new industrial complexes established nationwide are located in Upper Egypt. So tell me more about the importance of making new roads and linking the Upper Egypt to rest of the country.
We cannot have investment or growth in the economic side without infrastructure. And it's not only roads, it's roads, railways, and even transport through the River Nile. We need to have electricity, we need to have everything. Why we need roads and railways? Because when we produce, we need to export. So we need proper ways to reach the ports. And if the ports are not developed properly, we will not be able to export. So the infrastructure in all aspects of it, would it be roads, railways, electricity, you name it, gas, oil, as Mr. President had mentioned, we need to have services on the roads. Every 5 kilometers, we need to have a service station so that people could move freely. So the infrastructure is the backbone, I repeat, the backbone of any economic development. So it relates all the parts of the country with the ports and then to export. So it's extremely important, as Mrs. Naveen Gama had mentioned.
Yes, also, Dr. Passant, the head of state, stressed that modern technology can achieve great turns with an increase of 20% compared to manual work. How do you see his statement?
Definitely, technology is important, but if you wish to have technology, you need to have climate who could invite the major multinational experts in the technological side, because technology is known where it exists. But those countries, in order to come, and I think they know very well that Egypt became a very attractive part in the world to attract technology, we need to invite those people to come. But they need to have stability, which we have, political stability we have, board stability on the borders we have very good rules and regulations, we have a proper political and economic and fiscal policies, we have 50% of population who are willing to be trained. So I think import of technology is very important, and gradually we will learn from it and even develop it in a better manner. So yes, Mr. President is correct in that respect, because we cannot continue to do the things 100 years back. Nevertheless, there are some products which could be done by hand, and those, the artisanat, as you said, those are very attractive to tourists, and they could be exported as well. But those are traditional products. They exist in every governorate. They're different from a governorate to the other. And those are what we call the microfinance, micro projects.
Also, Dr. Passant, the UN has placed Egypt's Upper Egypt Development Project as the best practice towards achieving the goals of sustainable development. So what are your thoughts on this?
If you wish to have continuous economic development, you need to have social stability. The social stability doesn't come only from big projects. It starts from micro, small, and medium. And that's why the United Nations said that we have diversification in approaching our economy. We need to go slowly but surely in the governorates where we have many, if you like, small cities and small farms. We need to educate women. We need to let them practice the production. So yes, we have a very good comprehensive experience. We started bottom up, meaning we have a very large number of producers in all the governorates, and they are mainly women, by the way. And then gradually the project grows to become small, medium, and then large. But the large always constitute 20% of any economy in the world. So we cannot depend only on the large. We have to go ahead and depend on the base, which the United Nations has spoke about, and then the middle, and then the uppers are known and seen, as we saw this morning.
So, Dr. Passant, a Republican decree was issued to set up a free trade zone in Aswan to provide as many as 15,000 job opportunities to residents in Upper Egypt. What would be the kind of projects to be built in the free trade zone?
First of all, we need to benefit from the resources in Aswan, the natural resources. Second, we need to train our young generation on how to produce properly, because this free zone will be an area to export from to Africa. And Africa is a very large continent, a very large number of cities, and we are heading the COMESA. So this free zone will help us as well attract investors. Those investors will establish projects with us, and I repeat, with us, benefiting from the strong points we have in Aswan as resources, and then being a point of export to Africa. The free zones are very attractive to investors because they have special laws and regulations. And from the special laws and regulations, you give them a little bit of a freedom to move on in and out. The most important thing for any investor is an easy entry and easy exit. And the free zones assures that concept. So it's a very good and smart idea to have it in Aswan.
So, Dr. Passant, some international organizations like the World Bank have been involved in development of Upper Egypt. How do you see the active cooperation between Egypt and international bodies in that field?
First of all, Egypt has been always open to all international institutions. But I wish to mention that the trust of those institutions in the way we work is the backbone. Because when they deal with you, they have to deal with you on clear ground. So when you have clear ground, clear politics, they know what you're doing, they understand exactly your objectives and your strategy, they are willing to help you and help other countries surrounding us. So we have been always have very good relationships, whether it be with the World Bank, the IMF, the African Bank, all the international institutions. And moreover, I wish to mention as well, if you look at the report written on Egypt, they are all, I repeat, all extremely positive about our performance and about our strategies and the follow-up on those strategies. Why am I mentioning the follow-up? Because things change every minute. But we are very alert, we know what we are doing, and we know how to adjust minute by minute to comply to the international changes happening because of the change of climate, the poverty, you name it. Many things are there. So yes, we have a very good relationship with the World Bank, the IMF, and all other financial institutions, the African Bank, the major multinational banks, because they trust our way of performance and our way of achievement.
So, Dr. Passant, the President has earlier opened a number of projects executed by Haya Karima or Decent Life initiatives in Asyut, Sohag, Quna, Aswan and Luxor. That includes medical units, hospitals. Would you please highlight the efforts done by Haya Karima initiative in Upper Egypt and its role in improving the living standards of people living in these areas?
The situation in Upper Egypt was unacceptable, humiliating, unacceptable that Egyptians of 7,000 years of history could live like this. So Mr. President had had his eye on this ever since he was elected. He started by, not only by this one, he started by the slums. He started by combating slums and forming a decent life for people living in slums. So we don't have slums anymore, alhamdulillah. And then he moved to Haya Karima, decent life. Why? Because I repeat, it is unacceptable from human level, and second as well from the economic level, and from security level, and from social stability level. So I think this is a huge and a mega project the history will never forget. And honestly speaking, Mr. President has put in his hand on the most crucial, critical problems of the Egyptian territory, which was always the Upper Egypt.
So, Dr. Passant, if we talk about the challenges that still face people and people living in these areas, how can we government support them in the coming period?
They have to support them in finding proper work, and I repeat work, not jobs, in educating them, in financing them, and the most important part is to show them how to sell. Because you could produce very good products, you're highly trained, you're highly financed, but when you come to marketing, here you need government institutions which could take, in my personal opinion, we need to think of establishing a bank like Mohammed Yunus established and he got a Nobel Prize on it, the Bank of the Poor. Not only because we need to finance them, but we need to take all what they produce, give them the money, and then we turn around and prepare how to sell it. Because this is the most difficult part. They cannot sell, they cannot go overseas, they cannot establish fairs, if you like. But they can produce excellent products. So I think this point is extremely one, and we need to capitalize on it in the coming period, inshallah.
One more question, Dr. Passant. How do you read international financial reports about performance of Egyptian economy and the impact of these mega projects on the way the international community regards the situation in Egypt?
Those international institutions are, if you like, the direction where investors look at when they wish to go somewhere. They look at the reports issued by those institutions, and they are guided by them. They tell them, go to Egypt, they go to Egypt. They tell them, go to Morocco, they go to Morocco. So it is extremely important to review all the time and see their comments. They are extremely important, extremely professional as well, because some people think that, no, they are extremely professional. And we have seen during the last years, there is not a single report which has put a negative point on Egypt. So alhamdulillah, we're moving very positively, very professionally, and extremely directed toward developing our economy and our country. The country has been neglected for years, for decades. It is high time now, honestly, to Egyptians, all of them, to start building a new Egypt, as Mr. President has mentioned.
Yes, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Passant Fahmi, economic expert and former member of Parliament. Thank you for being with us. And
thank you, Madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's worth mentioning that President Fattah Sisi inaugurated a number of mega urban and industrial development projects in Upper Egypt via video conference today during a visit to Quna Governorate, and the new openings mark the Upper Egypt Week and are part of the state's comprehensive development plan for the important area. And the viewers, by that we come to the end of Panorama News. Stay tuned for our special coverage to President Fattah Sisi's visit to Quna.